Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. In this video, let me share my top 3 tips about how you can retain more information. Now, you could be a project manager and you may have to go over a lot of things and you might want to retain a lot of that information. You could be a PMP aspirant and preparing for the PMP exam. You need to learn a lot of things. So, how do you retain whatever that you are reading, whatever the content that you are going over? You will find this video really, really helpful. Now, recently I was on a Zoom call with someone and they told me how it is, how my bookshelf is really nice, but more important is to basically retain the information that you get out of reading all these books. Now, I totally agree with that. And I feel when you read a lot of books, you also find a lot of strategies, a lot of, pointers in human psychology from history that you might want to apply on your day-to-day projects as well. But how do you remember all this, right? So that is why let's talk about how to remember more when going over a lot of stuff. And like I said, as a project manager or someone who's preparing for the PMP exam, you will have to go over a lot of stuff. Stuff like articles, knowledge bases, documentation. All of this could be process related, all of this could be your specific project or product related as well. But it is likely that as a project manager, you might have to do a lot of reading when it comes to articles. It could be knowledge based articles, it could be other documentation. Then there are books. Of course, you might be interested in something, you might want to read those books, or these could be your project management related books. If you're preparing for the PMP exam, these books could mean the PMBOK guide, these books could mean your agile practice guide, and any other reference books that you are using to prepare for the PMP exam. As a project manager, you might also have to read a lot of emails on a day to day basis. Then there are meeting minutes. Keep those meeting minutes as short and as to the point as possible. I see some of the meeting minutes that are way too large, and a lot of people might not end up reading them. Because, like I said, just take a look at some of the things that project managers need to go through on a daily basis. Then you have videos, you may have Zoom call recordings, you have all hands, you may have conferences, events. So, a lot of information is basically being passed on to you as a project manager, or even if you are preparing for the PMP exam, a lot of this is applicable to you. So, how do you retain all of this information? Retain is basically the second part. The first part is how do you make sure that you are paying attention to all of these? And I touched upon this when I talked about how the meeting minutes should be short and crisp so that people do not lose their attention. The average attention span of a human being has reduced from 12 seconds to just 8 seconds because you have so many things to do. You have so many distractions in your day to day life that it is very, very difficult to basically pay attention. A goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. Now, I know a lot of people tend to say that, well, all of this is fake, it is not factually correct, but whatever it is, we just take this as an analogy to be able to build my case as to how you should be remembering more. How can you retain more information? So, the first thing that you should do is do not multitask, right? So, when you're reading a book, or when you're reading an email, or when you're attending a conference or attending a Zoom call, do not multitask. Try to make sure that your 100% focus is on the present activity that you're doing, right? If you're not able to do so, you might want to block some time, right? So we talked about how you might want to read emails, you might want to read some documentation or knowledge base articles. If you have to multitask while reading those emails, while reading those articles, then it's best to block some time on your calendar so that you do not have to multitask, so that you just focus on one task at hand, and that is to read those KBs, go over those Zoom recordings or videos or whatever, right? The rush and the busy lifestyle that we have these days, that is the reason why a lot of people end up multitasking. So the first point is do not fall for it. Do not multitask. Point number two is engage with the content. And we just talked about how much content you as a project manager or a PMP aspirant need to go over, right? So the next best thing, my second tip for you is to engage with the content that you are going over. Now, how can you engage with the content? You can take notes, whatever that you're reading, try to make notes out of it, try to summarize it, try to draw conclusions. Can you analyze whatever that you're reading and how it fits in your day-to-day projects? And that is what I meant when I initially said that you might be reading a book on history, you might be reading a book on human psychology, but can you basically draw some parallels? Can you think about how this book helps you out on your day to day projects? And that is what I mean when I say engage with the content, right? Think about the content, analyze the content, and it is possible that the content you're going over helps you in decision making, helps you in your day to day project activity and project work. So that is my tip number two. And finally, tip number three is make use of the content and do this as soon as possible. So what does this mean, right? You have gone over all the books, the recordings, whatever, right? Even if you're preparing for the PMP exam, you've gone over a lot of books, maybe flashcards, maybe videos. How do you make use of the content? Can you teach a single concept to someone else? Maybe they are also preparing for the PMP exam and you're studying together. Can you teach the concept to someone else that you have learned today, right? That is making use of the content. As a project manager, you can communicate about what you're learning to others as well. Maybe share, right? Sharing is caring. Let me take an example. If you join a new organization, there is an onboarding program usually that you have to go over. And it might not be a lot useful at that time, at that point in time, because you're new and you're not using a lot of content that is being shared with you. So later on, when you start to actually use the content that they taught you in the onboarding program, that is when that content starts to help you out, right? Because that is when you are actually using the content that you were taught. So the first thing you got to do is to be able to focus, to not multitask. The second point is to analyze, draw parallels from what you're learning, and try to think how it can be useful for your day to day life. And number three is to actually use the content, right? Use whatever you have learned on your day to day projects and in your daily life. So, those were my three tips of how you can retain more information. Check out our playlist section. If you're preparing for the PMP exam, you will find all the topics that you need to learn on our playlist. So head over to youtube.com/PMC Lounge/playlists. And that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it. I hope you were able to learn something new. If you did, please hit the like button. It helps us stay motivated and create more free content for you. Like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you like our content, consider contributing using the thanks button or pmclounge.com/contribute webpage. Thank you and have a nice day.